This prison governor has just been jailed for 9 years. Oh, hi there, stranger. Today I'm going to be telling you about the case of Kerry Pegg. Viewer discretion, as always, is advised. So, Kerry Pegg was born the 17th of September 1982. I don't know what she did with her early life, but by the age of 30 in 2012, she was a graduate entrant to the prison service. She worked in a few different prisons, and by 2018 she was the governor in HMP Kirkham. This means, of course, that in just 6 years she went from entrance level to governor. That was a quick rise through the ranks, and even though I do not know how the system works, even I can see the potential problems with that. The governor is basically the general manager of the prison, so they are basically in charge of everything: the welfare of the prisoners, the general overseeing of operations, the day-to-day running of the prison is all down to the governor. And in Kirkham in 2018, that person was, of course, Kerry Pegg. And by this point in her career, Pegg was on pretty decent money, around £3,000 a month, but she lived well beyond her means, overspending every single month until she ended up with 3 county court judgments. And she didn't declare any of the CCJs to her employer, which of course she had a duty to do. Debt can obviously leave prison officers vulnerable, open to blackmail or exploitation. But way worse than overspending every month, living beyond her means, and not declaring her serious debt to her employers, Pegg became involved with an inmate. They started an affair, and Pegg began to break the rules for her lover, who was coming to the end of a 10 stretch. And in October 2018, Loverboy put in a request for release on temporary licence. There are specific procedures and rules that need to be followed when such requests are made, but Pegg did not follow them, instead authorising the release herself. The official that should have dealt with the request was not notified of it. And then Pegg was removed within days to a different prison, HMP Lancaster Farms, and her boyfriend was released in May 2019. Around this time, 2019, crooks were using a messaging service called EncroChat that was supposed to be uncrackable by law enforcement until law enforcement cracked it. Many arrests were made following law enforcement's access to EncroChat, and Pegg's boyfriend was one of them. He had not turned his life around upon his release from prison. What? And was involved in a massive illegal operation for which he was arrested and has now been convicted. But the details of the illegal operation were not the only thing that the police uncovered from Loverboy's phone. Unfortunately for Pegg, he had been talking about her to the boys. Aww. And this led to the police becoming suspicious about who this girlfriend could be. See, Loverboy had gifted Pegg a £12,000 Mercedes and had been discussing the purchase of that car in messages, and had also been talking about, quote, driving round with Peggy in her new car. The messages were evidence that the car had been paid for with something other than cash, and thus the Mercedes was a proceed of crime. Pegg, who had traded in her Honda Jazz and now had a £12,000 Merc on the drive, was not exactly incognito. So it didn't take the police long to make the connection, and Pegg was arrested in November 2020. The car was on the driveway when they went to arrest her. After her arrest, when she was being escorted down her driveway in handcuffs and walked past the £12,000 Mercedes, she said, "Where did that come from?" No, I don't know what happened when she was arrested or what she said, to be fair. Once police searched Pegg's home, they found more evidence by way of a men's pair of Hugo Boss sliders and a toothbrush. I know it's not exactly the most exciting bit of evidence, but once tested, Pegg's boyfriend's DNA was found on both items, and so Pegg was banged to rights. Which is only proper considering she was banged for wrong for so long. Kerry Pegg's charges were 2 counts of misconduct in public office. Of course, she hadn't declared the CCJs, and then she had an intimate relationship with an inmate. And 1 count of possessing criminal property, of course, the Mercedes. She was found guilty on all 3 counts. Her sentence was 9 years for the first count of misconduct in public office, 2 years for the second count, and 4 years for possessing criminal property, of course the car, to run concurrently. And just to wrap up all the details, Loverboy received a 35-year sentence for whatever he had going on when the police got into his EncroChat in 2020. And I don't know what happened to the car. Peg was sentenced on the 16th of May 2025 at the age of 42. It's another one of those cases. We seem to be seeing these more and more often. Love me or hate me for this, but I am glad she is being held accountable for her actions. What she did was very, very wrong. And if it were a man, we would expect this. So she sat on the stand and tearfully claimed that she didn't know she'd done anything wrong. And it's like, come on, girl. You was the governor. Of course you knew you was doing something wrong. And also, if you didn't know that you was doing anything wrong, then why did you keep it a secret? But that is just my opinion. As always, please let me know what yours is in the comments. And if you've stayed with me up until now, then thank you for watching, and I will see you for the next one.